first thing that occurred to Willie and me when we saw those big chunks of plaster all over Willie's bed and the exposed wooden laths in the ceiling was, wow. Nobody was home, and not, wow, what a piece of luck that it happened when nobody was home and not when Willie was in bed either copping Z's or engaged in a carnal encounter with his new wife, the sweet Rowena. Because the ceiling falling in on them like that, the entire damn ceiling of their East 9th Street tenement, apartment, bedroom coming loose like that, could have done them serious harm and cost them a considerable sum for medical attention, money they didn't have for the moment, even for happier purposes. The second thing that occurred to us was, boy, if Willie and or Rowena happened to be in bed at the time of the ceiling collapse, and if they survived the event, which was, after all, highly likely, then, boy, would they have some case against the vicious, venal, wholly unprincipled landlord who kept his building in such appalling condition while undoubtedly sucking up single malt scotches and wolfing down pink slabs of rare roast beef in pricey East Side boîtes surrounded by fawning chorus girls. The idea blossomed like a giant flower. Jesus, what a lawsuit. Struggling artist and bride, nascent Michelangelo and consort, struck down by a treacherous ceiling, grievous wounds, future fear of ceilings, many fruitful avenues of legal attack. Huge sums in settlement. The third thing we thought was, wow, it was really too bad in a way. Almost bad luck in a sense that neither Willie nor the sweet Rowena was in bed at the time. Not that Willie would have wished the slightest harm upon the sweet, etc. Not in a million years, but if they had happened to be in bed at the exact moment when the ceiling declared its independence, and God knows they were certainly putting in the sack time, the marriage being only a few months old, why then they could certainly very probably have turned a good scare and some mild bruising into something splendid, like $1 million judgment that would have kept Willie in Bert, Sienna, and Rose Madder for a lifetime, and while also providing the leisure to apply them. The fourth thing that occurred to them was this: no one knew whether Willie and or the sweet, etc. happened to be in that bed or not when the ceiling decided to take a dive. Okay, so the fifth thing was pretty obvious. The fifth thing was, hey, why not just say Willie was in bed at the time? And this was followed quickly by the sixth thing, actually a cluster of thoughts around the realization that to go after the kind of settlement Willie had in mind, to build a strong, credible case, it was going to be necessary to, well, to bang Willie around with something. No pain, no gain was the essence of number 6. And I have to tell you, it caused Willie some notable anxiety, even though he agreed with the logic and the rationale supporting this particular number. The seventh thing was kind of a debate or a negotiation between Willie and me, really a question of degrees, with Willie, as you would expect, opting for less banging around, and me for a tad more. Though God knows I took no pleasure in the prospect of wounding my good buddy, whom I cherished. Okay, total truth now. There was that time a year ago or so when I was chatting up a certified American Beauty Rose in the old Reliable bar, blasting every charm bolt I had in this heart-stopping honey, while entertaining dark, bestial thoughts in the back quarters of my mind. I excused myself to hit the head, and when I ran into a small line, and by the time I got back, Willie had slithered up next to her like a snake in heat, and damn near snatched away her affections in their entirety. But this historical reflection I include for the record. It did not affect my judgment, I assure you, which was colored by questions of realism, medical veracity, and the size of the potential settlement. And eventually, Willie and I agreed on the 8th thing, which was an approach to the requisite infliction of injuries, whereby he was to lie on the floor, on his stomach, with his shirt off, and I was to mount an adjacent stepladder carrying chunks of the actual fallen plaster and bombard him with these until we achieved some sort of visible results. The 9th thing was nothing I wish to dwell on. A short, ugly piece of business featuring me flinging mega chunks of jagged plaster down on the naked back of my best buddy and him bellowing, ow, 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 the while. But only for a very short while, because this ill-advised and insipidly criminal undertaking was interrupted and indeed curtailed completely by the 10th thing, to wit, the arrival of the sweet Rowena, who walked in on the scene with a facial expression that cannot be described. And once she understood that Willie and I were not engaged in some bizarre and hitherto unsuspected perversion, she moved with unswerving wifely instinct to protect her husband from further assault, while simultaneously delivering a spirited diatribe on the felonious nature of fraudulent lawsuits and the limited availability of proper natural light for painting in both prison environments, the latter being a consideration that hadn't even occurred to Willie or me. Willie healed up within a few days, by which time Rowena professed to see genuine humor in the event. And I discovered that I had finally forgiven Willie completely for his egregious behavior that night at the Old Reliable, that night when we both met that sweet Rowena for the first time.